There are so many aspects to entrepreneurship that no one ever talks about until now.
Wealth is so much more than just money, and there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy.
I think the biggest challenge is that so many people go into business ownership alone.
I think the community needs to understand how critically important Black businesses are to our future.
But we're also in business to make money.
What happens when you bring together a group of brilliant entrepreneurs who are winning at business and at life and sit them down for some real conversations?
The pressure is going to be there.
Yeah.
So don't allow pressure to be the reason you don't make it to the prize, because there's always a prize after that pressure.
And I learned that I was so much more stronger and capable than I thought I was. And that is what has equipped me to be even at this table today, because I know what I put my mind to, I'm gonna do it.
These are the conversations Black entrepreneurs have been craving, and you can hear them all when you take your seat at the winner's table.
Welcome to the winner's table, where the conversation is different when you sit with the winners. I am your host, Amber Wright, and for today's episode, I'm joined by Jeff Austin, also known as Plant-Based Jeff. We have Dr. Kimberly West of the Global Gastronome and Pastor D Mallory of Dunamis Woman Enterprise. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
How y'all doing?
We're wonderful.
We good?
Yes.
I love it. I'm so excited to have you all here. We're gonna have a great conversation and talk about something that I think is very common, but we may not always talk about publicly, and that is being a part of Generation First. Being the first person in your family to accomplish a thing, whatever that thing may be. And for me, I'll start with myself. I'm the first college graduate in my family. So in higher ed, we call that first gen or first generation. And that was a hard road for me because there was no blueprint for me to follow. No one in my family was like, well, this is what you can expect. So I had to learn it, figure it out on my own. Everybody was proud when I graduated, but there's a significance to that journey. So I'm gonna pose this question to the table and ask all of you, what were you the first in your family to do or accomplish? We'll start with Pastor D.
I'll just go with, because my story is similar to yours. You know, first college graduate, you know what I mean? Grew up in an environment, in a family where we worked laboriously. You know, I've seen my mother, seen my aunts and all that, and that's what I had adopted, you know. So basically at age 36, coming out of an abusive marriage, 2 children, you know, I said, I gotta use my mind, you know what I mean? And so no one was there to guide me, but I still had to go beyond the norm to say, hey, let me change my life, you know. Walked into a college at 36 years old, full of kids, 19 years old, sitting there, you know what I'm saying? But I accomplished all the way up to my master's 7 years straight.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that was the first, yeah.
That's fantastic. And we're going to circle back to all of that. So how about you, Dr. West?
I came from a family of overachievers, so being first to do anything was rather difficult, but I was the first in our family to not go to an HBCU. Oh. And the amount of controversy and angst that caused was astronomical. So it was a hard road to go. There was no blueprint for it because aunts, uncles, mother, father, everybody, stepmother, everybody either went to Morehouse, Spelman, or one of the other HBCUs. And I chose to go to the University of Miami.
Oh, I love that. I can't wait to come back to that. But let's hear Jeff's story. What were you the first in your family to accomplish?
I would say I would be the first to become an actual business owner.
Not an entrepreneur.
Right.
Business owner.
Yeah, business owner. Having people underneath, really running the strategic side, being a true CEO. But I've come from a family of what I consider hustlers. So people that had businesses, they had stuff like, my grandfather used to sell vegetables. He used to go from the country and he would come to Greenwood and Itabena, Mississippi, and he would yell out like, hey, vegetables, it was some type of call he used to yell out. So I think I get that from him. He kind of planted the seed for me being plant-based, and all of that. So So he used to sell vegetables. And when I heard that story, it just all tied back together. And I was like, I have a lot of people in my family that they do things like one-off and hustles and all of that, but no one really took it to the next level and said, let me hire people, let me put systems and processes in place and really operate this thing without me even being there at times. So like today, like the business is still rolling. Fulfillment center is still, rolling. Everything is still going without me being there. Exactly. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you all for sharing that with me, because I think we'll find some commonalities in this journey. But I think the first question that I want to pose to you all is, how did you navigate Shonda Rhimes calls it in her book, The Year of Yes, first, only, different. That really resonated with me, because when you take a path that is uncharted in your family, whatever it might look like, and I love that we have these different perspectives, it can be a lonely road. So how did you all approach that? How did you navigate at 36 with your babies on your hip, or not in your hip, right? You said
No, they was about 7 and 9, but I dragged them. I dragged them.
How did you navigate that path?
I would put an adjective to it and say it was a hard journey. You know what I mean? But it was a journey that was necessary for me to break not only the trend, but break the curse. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't really, I did it so effortlessly because it was not an option for me. You know what I'm saying? And I was always hands-on. So I had to pull them and drag them to the school and say, sit out here, don't say a word. I went against the trend of the school.
Don't talk to nobody, don't touch nothing.
I had to threaten them, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we got through that together, and like I say, it was laborious, but I didn't feel the weight of it. Okay. If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Because I knew where I was headed. I just always have that eagle's eye of looking at where I'm going and not where I am.
Yeah. So you had your end goal and you worked backwards. Okay. I love that. Thank you. How about you, Dr. West?
It was almost as if I had killed someone.
Oh, wow.
It was horrible because almost from birth, it was instilled in us, you're going to go to Morehouse, you're going to go to Spelman, or you're just going to go to an HBCU. You're going to be with your people. And when I made that final decision to not go, it really was, it created a chasm in the family to a certain extent.
Was it like a betrayal to them?
That's exactly what it was. I had betrayed the family. I had betrayed the gloriousness of ascending to an HBCU. And my perspective was that I had never existed in an environment that was all Black. And I felt comfortable because of between the education during high school and either junior high and music and all the other things that I did, I felt comfortable being in a much more diverse community. And that's what I was seeking when it came to an education. I wanted a diverse education, but I also wanted diverse people. And the school that I chose, we definitely had a very diverse population there. So eventually I was forgiven. To some extent, you know that you're disappointing your family and it makes you feel horrible. But at the same time, I was kind of like the Denise Huxtable of the family. Okay. I was the rebel. I really didn't care. Kind of just like marched to my own drum. That's how it panned out.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that, because again, I don't know that we talk often about what it is like to be on that journey. I always share about how I was the first of my friend group to get married. And I also, by chance, was the first one to have a child. And it was very isolating in the beginning, because they'd come in and be like, oh, Amber, she had a baby. And then they'd look and then they'd stare and they'd leave. Like I felt like a museum exhibit. They would just like walk through my house and then they'd leave me. And so I had to learn how to make mommy friends, because I needed people who understood the journey that I was on. And so I took the similar approach in school. That's how I navigated through it, was finding community. But it takes a lot of self-assurance to stick to the decision to say, no, this is what Kim needs to do for Kim, and not what the family needs to do, or do what the family wants you to do. So I love that you were able to do that, because it takes a certain level of commitment and self-assurance to be able to do that, even if you're shaking in your knees when you're like the odd woman out. How about you, Jeff? How did you navigate? So I love the connection that you made in the beginning about your grandfather and that tie to him. But maybe when you got started, you didn't know that this was like in my ancestral line and I'm meant to be a business owner. So how have you navigated this journey of taking it the step further that you've been able to do with your business?
Well, I always felt like I had to be the one. Like from a little kid, I always wanted to be a business owner. And I always told my parents, if you had anything, I would have took it. Like if you had a hot dog stand, a vegan hot dog stand, if you had anything, I would have took it. And because I saw other friends that, parents had owned funeral homes, all types of businesses, and they wouldn't even touch them. And I was like, I would love to have that opportunity. So I looked everywhere for inspiration, and when I couldn't find it, out of frustration, I was like, well, I guess I have to be the one.
Okay.
And I feel like my business, everything that I wanted to make drastic changes about, I was really frustrated about. And when I get really frustrated, I come up with solutions. And so when I got frustrated and said, well, I don't have any uncles, anybody that showed me the way, I was like, well, I guess I have to be the one. And for me, I had more resources than they had.
Okay.
I was more of a people person. So my family, they think I'm crazy for talking to just people just out the blue. And then I started to get around other business owners. I'm like, you own a business? Like, you don't know half the stuff that, and sometimes then the most educated, sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's the experience. And so when I got around those people and I started to learn, I said, I'm gonna blaze this path. I'll be the one, and the generations after me, I will be that person, you know, pitch on a fireplace mantle, wherever it may be, you know, digital
This
manual.
my great Uncle Jeff.
Right. So I wanted that from as a little kid. So it was always in me, and I just had to find a way to it. So once I got older, got around more people, I was like, okay, I can go this path.
So how has that impacted the way you navigate business and your just approach to life in general?
At this point, when I go through business, it really helps because I create products, I create services based out of frustration. Like if I keep hearing pain points, I'm like, I gotta solve that. People say they're too busy to eat healthy. Let me solve that. Let me create a guide for that. So I'm a problem solver. I love problems. When I hear problems, I'm like, it has to be a solution. I mean, like, it wouldn't be a problem if it didn't have a solution. So just knowing my purpose, you know, it keeps my moral compass. It keeps me centered. So I know, like, okay, whatever the times, if I waver here or there, I know what I need to do. So being self-driven, it helps a lot.
I love that. And you mentioned purpose. Would you both say that taking these uncharted paths in your life help reveal your purpose?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. You cannot have purpose without problems. Going back to what he was saying, you know, but the solution is there. So you have to go against the grain. And when you go against the grain, like I went against the grain of my family, I went against the grain of the norm of having a job, you know, because I was a hustling entrepreneur at that time, but I also ran a child welfare agency, you know, so a lot of things that I was doing even then, particularly leaving a relationship, is going against the grain, you know, but it helped me find out more about myself. And when you find out about who you really are and not who you have become based upon what other people want you to be, and that's even your family members, you know what I'm saying?
All the more your family.
All the more, you know, because I'm not going by your drum beat, you know, I'm not going by your tune, you know, I'm not going to be at every family gathering. I have a higher purpose and I have to strive for that. I have to reach towards that higher purpose. And that means I got to let something go on this aspect, on that level.
Absolutely. And you being so young, Dr. West, what was that like? Did you feel a sense of relief when you finally got to campus? Like, I'm glad I left all them behind. Now
I really did. It was like somebody had lifted the world off my shoulders, and that I was no longer being persecuted for not wanting to follow in the footsteps of everyone else in the family. But that eventually led me to what my true purpose was, and even the way that I live my life now. The diversity that I was seeking in terms of being in college and at that young age has led me to live a very international life. My business is international intrinsically. I live outside the United States. I travel extensively outside the United States. So seeking that, even at 16, has led me to this point, and I'll just say I'm over 40, has led me to this point where it was the on-ramp to where I was eventually gonna go.
That's so exciting for me. And that I think is the beauty of what can come on the other side of making a decision. Even if you're not the first person to do it, just having the courage to make a big decision that you know is on the inside of you that you have to do. Growing up with there's a lot of instability in my childhood and a lot of robbing Peter to pay Paul, you know, and I knew you make these decisions almost like an agreement with yourself. Like, I'm not going to have this experience when I'm older. You know, the rent-a-center people coming to get your furniture or whatever. I'm like, that's not going to happen for me. And you don't really know how, but it's like a switch that gets turned on. And I think out of that is the purpose kind of becoming illuminated, I think, in ourselves, and the journey helps to bring it to life further. And I think that's an interesting part of the experience, again, that we can all agree upon now, but when we're going through it, it's like, I just know I have to
I have to do it. Right, right. And seeing, for me, seeing all of their struggles, but they were having more problems. You know what I'm saying? The struggles was there, the gas was cut off, the lights was cut off. It was just like, you're working so hard, but you're not accomplishing anything. You know what I mean? So even, I had to make a decision within myself. What do I want, not just for me, but for my children? You know what I'm saying? I have 2 daughters here, broken relationship and all that stuff. So I have to set the tone right now to set the standard and the bar for them. You know what I'm saying? So that was more so what drove me more so than the education.
On the other side of this, and I think I'll share for myself, going to college, so picking back up what I was saying a second ago about not really being sure, I knew that an education was going to be the path forward for me to create a different life than what I had growing up. And for me, education means options. So when I started my business, I'm a communication coach and consultant, I always did something else. I had a full-time job, and then I was an adjunct professor at night, and every few years, and then I would run my blog way back then by late night, and every few years I'd phase a job out. When I left the full-time job, I taught more classes, which allowed me to grow my business until I left the classroom and entered my business full-time. So people always say, I always am the varsity captain of Team Do Too Much, because I'm always doing a bunch of things, but I'm also always learning, and I don't ever like feeling like I'm stuck or dependent on any one person or thing. And to me, to learn how to do things helps me to do that also in my work as a coaching consultant, because I'm teaching people how to do the same thing. So on the other side of this journey, you talked about your daughters, and we all have relatives and family members who are watching you. So what has it been like on the other side of taking this path of being the first, only different, part of Generation First in your family?
I have had family members come to me, especially now. I've had family members come to me and ask me how I knew what my purpose was at such a young age. That's the first question. And how did I have the strength to withstand our family, because our family is vocal. But how did I have the strength to withstand all of the pressure that I was getting from the family? And how did I wind up walking into the type of life and the lifestyle that I'm living now? So now they're asking me, well, how did I do it back then? And how do I get like you now? And that's probably one of the biggest validation points for me. But the ultimate validation was, okay, my father is not only my business partner, but I grew up in our family business, learned, as a consultant. And he thought I was absolutely insane when I started this international business and when I started living abroad. Now he's asking me, how do we do this? Because retirement is, and medical costs and all of these other things that they have to deal with at this age. How do I make that transition and make my life easier? How do I have a softer life at this point? Because clearly you've done it.
Well, actually, before we move on from that point, I wanted to hear from you, Jeff. On the other side, so again, Uncle Jeff on the wall, generations past. But what has it been like for you in this current season with building your business out to what it has become? And I know them marveling you, because Black folks, we're like, ooh, I'm scared of you. So I see you with your little plant-based business. We put a little on top of everything to kind of minimize it a little bit. So how do you see an impact, or are they responding to you differently? Are they asking you now about,
Definitely see.
Can I have a job?
I definitely see the impact. When I first started, I was sort of like the black sheep. They thought I was crazy. For one, I'm from Mississippi, so healthy eating is not at the top of the priorities. So for me to say I'm not eating meat, for one, I'm crazy. And then for two, you sick because you're skinny now. And so they looking at me like, I've lost 60 plus pounds. They're looking at me like, are you on drugs? Or, it was jokes for days. Like the first year or so, I couldn't go home without, being the butt of all the jokes. And I just endured it because I knew, I was like, I just got to show them. I got to show them. And, because I know how my people are, my family, how people from Mississippi are, they have to see it. So when they saw the success, and then they saw that I was helping, because originally I just wanted to help my immediate family. I saw too many people dying at 30, 40, and 50, heart attacks, diabetes, getting, feet limbs amputated. I saw all of this all the time, and they would say, hey, it's a part of life. Like, you're starting to get old. I'm like, no, that's not a part of, it's all about what we eat. We're passing down bad habits. That's what we're passing down. Diabetes does not run in the family. The bad eating habits does. So with changing that mindset, I impacted my immediate family first. My mother, my father, my sister. I got my sister off of diabetes. She was like pre-diabetic, reversed that condition, got her blood pressure under control. I'm like, this is what I want to do. But it started to spill over to other people were seeing it. And they were like, man, you're around here really helping a lot of people, lose weight. And so pretty much my family became a fan of me, like just through online, because all of my family is on Facebook, like everybody. So they're just watching me. They're just watching me. And so it went from this guy is crazy to, he may got something going on here. And I started to, put some of my accomplishments. I hit this milestone. I hit this dollar amount. Hey, we're at almost $1 million. And now I got their attention. Then people started to come to me one-on-one. Hey, I'm dealing with this, Jeff. Can you help me out? I'm dealing with this. So then I started to help people get them the changes that they need. They were buying my stuff without me soliciting them. Most people, when they start a business, they want to go to friends and family. I didn't go to them first. I went to the marketplace first, and I proved myself there. And when I proved myself there, they saw it. And then when I was going through orders, I'm like, so-and-so ordered my course? These people are ordering digital courses. I mean, the high dollar courses. I'm like, and no one asked for a hookup. Nobody asked for anything. They were just like, hey, I see what you're doing. I want to learn. I want to be a part of it, cousin, nephew, all of that. So it really changed the trajectory and perception of health in my family. And so it makes me feel, I love it. I feel like my purpose was being served, because first I wanted to take care of family first. And then from when I take care of family, then I can go out to the world. But it kind of went reversed. I went to the marketplace and I helped a lot of people. My intention was my family, but then right now it's like a windfall. And so now everybody's getting healed. Everybody's getting mindset changes. So just being that example, being that pillar. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's the common denominator here. You didn't stop just at your bachelor's. You went and got your master's. You pursued a doctorate. I'm in a doctorate program at the moment. So there is something about that, because people will try to diminish what you're doing. It's like, oh, you in school again. You doing that again. Or you think you so smart. You think you better than us. No, you think I'm better than you. And that's why you're treating me in accordance. I've never said that.
Right. And for me, people's emphasis was not more so on my education. It was the fact that I wasn't there for them. You know what I'm saying? Which is a whole nother thing. You know what I'm saying? That I wasn't there for them. And then more so too, is that my goal was to not just to have an education, but to build something for my legacy. You know what I'm saying? And what my goal is, now they're seeing the evidence. Now they're seeing the manifestation of it. Me not only working in a faith-based business or having my faith-based business, but I'm in the business with my daughters. You know what I'm saying? So remember, they were 7, 9 at that point. Now they're 32, 34. You know what I'm saying? So they have seen my struggles, they have seen my grit, and now they have that same thing that I wanted imparted into them. Anybody could tell you something. But my mother used to say, I could show you better than I could tell you. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm grateful for the education, but it's beyond that for myself. You know what I'm saying? And even it helped cultivate my gift, because I'm a clinical therapist, and that's what my education, my master's in, So at the end of the day, I was already doing it. The system said I wasn't knowing what I was doing. I was getting the outcomes. So now I had to let I know what I'm doing, because the paper is validating with the outcomes I was already getting. And that's that proof. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. A lot of people say to me, well, again, team do too much. You're always doing something, Amber, but you accomplish everything that you set out to do. And for me, I'm an overthinker. I'm a proud overthinker. I don't reject that. That is the way I am wired, is to overthink things. But the beauty in that is, because I tell people, overthinking is not your enemy. Inaction is. At some point, you got to pick the nail color, sis. Like, you can't stand there in front of the nail shop lady and be like, I don't know, pick the color. So what that does for me is, and being the first only different and the first generation college student in my own journey, taught me what I was capable of. And so I, as a former educator and having worked in higher ed, I always used to tell my students, this is just part of your journey. Yes, there's a piece of paper at the end, but it's really more about who you want to become on the other side of this. And I learned that I was so much more stronger and capable than I thought I was. And that is what has equipped me to be even at this table today, because I know what I put my mind to, I'm going to do it. I'm going to overthink about it. But then at some point, I'm going to make the decision and I'm going to commit and follow through. So as we close, I would like for you all to, because there's, people on so many different parts of their journey. There's someone who's just starting a business for the first time, or they're thinking about starting a business, or maybe thinking about exiting the business. What advice would you give to your former self at that point of the commencement of your journey? So we know for you it was 16. We know for you it was 36. We don't know Jeff here, he vegan, so we don't know exactly how old he is. But what advice would you give to your younger self, or to someone who is on the brink of becoming the first person in their family to accomplish something?
I would give to my former self, or someone in that manner, is that whatever you set your mind to do, talk to yourself. You can do it. Do not wait for no one to talk to you. Talk to yourself. Tell yourself, look yourself in the mirror and say, you got this. I think sometimes we look for validation. We look for other people's approval. We look for other people's opinion, and I had all that around me. But I literally had to tell myself, if you don't do this for you, you will die.
I would say, almost to piggyback on that, there's a voice inside of you. There is something inside you that is speaking to you. And there are all of these external forces and external voices that you're hearing. Learn to tune out the external and listen to that internal.
That's right.
That is your God, that is your compass, that is your Buddha, whomever. That is what is going to carry you through this chrysalis, if you will, period. And on the other side, you're going to come out to be that butterfly. But listen to that that's inside you.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful. How about you, Jeff?
I would tell my younger self, something my dad used to always tell me when I was growing up was, watch the people you're hanging around with. Like, he was so particular about my friends. He would judge them. And I would think like, oh, Ray is cool. What are you talking about? But what I soon learned, that depending on who you're hanging around could land you in prison or the penthouse. So get around the right people, get in the right communities quickly at a young age. Because a lot of people get derailed at a young age. They don't make it to college, or they don't even live to see college. So the number one thing I would tell myself would get around the right people quickly, and also to take action. Because being in my head all the time, I'm an overthinker. I would think and then think about thinking. Like, I think. Yeah, so sometimes action for me, I'm just at a standpoint in my own head. Yeah. Like, when I took the advice of mentors and different programs that I was in, I would skyrocket quickly. And I'm like, why didn't I just do this 3 years ago, 5 years ago? Because as soon as you can launch it and you can figure out like, oh, okay, that didn't work. It's just a lesson. So I want to hurry up and get to the failures. I want to hurry up and get to the losses so I can learn and so that I can propel myself quicker.
Comes back to community. So I think, and my advice to my younger self is, you're stronger than you think you know. You're so much stronger than you think you know. And if I know that, and I know that I need to take action, I need to find community, and I know that I need to trust my voice and trust my instinct, there's nothing that's not available to you. You just have to be courageous enough to take that first step.
That's right.
What a wonderful conversation, y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us at the Winner's Table. We'll see you next time.
Combo, your home for conversations on Black entrepreneurship and wealth. Available on your favorite platforms.